Good afternoon and welcome you and your business with me, Alec on 103.2 Dublin City FM. Each week, I invite an expert from the world of business to share their knowledge, insights and tips to help you with your business challenges. If there's a topic you would like covered, or if you feel you can make a contribution, please email me at yourbusiness@dublincityfm.ie and perhaps we'll be having a chat here one day soon. And my guest today has been a professional photographer for more than 28 years. He is one of only 3 fully qualified lifetime members of the Irish Professional Photographer and Videographers Association. And he has a unique relationship with some of Ireland's premier venues. I'm delighted to introduce to you Dermot Byrne. Hi, Dermot.
How you doing, Alec? How are you?
Yeah, fantastic. There's loads there to talk about. But I suppose like I do with all my guests, I take people back to their last year in school. Were you the academic? Were you the artist? Do you want to get into the workplace? What was going through your mind at the time?
Yeah, a lot. I think as most 17-year-olds do, or whatever it was at the time. So what kind of interests me was a combination of kind of physics, maths, that kind of stuff,
Sure.
from a subject perspective and art. So so it was kind of, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I kind of was geared myself towards art college. I was hoping to kind of get there.
Right.
My father was a sheet metal worker, so he was very much into trades, and he was kind of saying, well, it's the late 80s, maybe you should be looking at a trade. So it was the two of those things I was trying to kind of juggle at the time.
Sure.
You know? So it was like a
it's
plan A and a
amazing.
plan B.
Yeah, it's amazing. A lot of people who are very good with their hands in terms of, like the trades. But not mad keen on people are going into the world of art.
No. Well, I think at that time it was kind of frowned upon. Probably by people who wanted to earn a few quid. Look, it was one of those things. Like when I did the leaving cert, it was into. I tried to get an apprenticeship, didn't get it. I wasn't successful, but I did get into a portfolio preparation course,
Right.
which photography was a part of. So I kind of, took to that a little bit like a duck to water, because it was kind of a combination of physics and maths of the technical part of it,
Right.
a little bit of chemistry thrown in from the developing end of it, but the kind of composition work and getting the people to do what you want them to do, all that kind of stuff, was the artistic end of it. So it was all the little things that I kind of liked all married together. So it was one of those things that I was just like, oh, okay. I never picked up a camera before. And the photographer who was actually running the course copped that. And he actually took me out on a few jobs, commercial jobs and stuff like that. It was great. It's really good.
All right. And do you remember your first camera?
I do. A Praktika piece of rubbish. But, today you look back in it fondly, you think, like, for example, you get a camera like that, it's working grand, and then the next thing, the gears start to go, and you're taking a photograph, and you wind it on, you take a photograph, you wind it on. And then when you develop it, you realize that you didn't wind on fully.
Right.
You've got all these photographs matched over each other. Some people think this is great and it's very artistic. No, not unless you actually mean it.
No, okay. So, I mean, in the meantime, too, you were going to go off into the trades to cover yourself, because, I mean, Ireland wasn't one of these places that had, a surplus of jobs for photographers.
No, certainly not. Yeah, so what happened was, when I finished the course, then I actually got offered an apprenticeship. For the second year, I went for it in ESB as an electrician. Right. So I took that because in my head, and I think my parents as well were kind of advising me, it was a plan A and a plan B then. So if the photography end of it, if I continued with that and it worked out, great. And if that worked out, brilliant. If it didn't, there was something to fall back on. There was a trade to fall back on. So that was the idea. So it was like a plan A, plan B.
Yeah, and it was a good plan, because also that sort of skill, being a trained electrician, could have taken you places like Canada, probably in the United States and Australia if you need be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it was a good option at the time.
Yeah. So there we go. So you're a man of sense. You listen to your parents. Gosh, I wish I'd done the same myself, but there we go.
Yeah,
sometimes. So anyway, you had the basics of a safe, pensionable job for life. So I presume that's about a 4-year course. Is it something you were doing there?
Yeah, 4 years, and then
So
after that, then it was let go.
Yeah, fantastic. So it wasn't that safe and pensionable.
No.
But at the weekends you were occupying yourself as well.
No, absolutely. So part of the I suppose I was doing two apprenticeships, is probably the best way to put it. One was the ESB one, and one was a self-made one. So, for example, a friend of mine knew a very good wedding photographer who was local to me, and put in a word for me. And I just made a phone call then and just said, look, I just want to carry your bag, see what you do. That's it. Help you out in any way I can. Move lights around, whatever. And again, for me, it was a matter of going out, getting the experience, learning from somebody who really knows what they're doing on a practical basis. Because you can read all the books you like, you can look at YouTube videos and TikTok videos as they are now, but still you cannot beat going out and actually learning from somebody who knows what they're talking about and knows what they're doing. It's very simple.
And you know what, you're dead right. I mean, I'm always saying this to business people, you can read it from books, but I mean, you would have seen so many things. You're out with a guy who's perfecting his craft and trade out there. You would have seen probably the rows at weddings, the drunks at weddings, all of the management needed to make a successful gig out of it.
Absolutely. It was all to do with what I loved. What I learned most from that particular photographer wasn't the technical aspect of photography. It was the management part. It was the logistics. It was moving people around and making them think that they want to move to there, even though he was the one that suggested it, but they forget that he suggested it. And that was brilliant. And I learned that, and I do that on a regular basis now, today, and that was one of the best things I heard. Like, for example, when I was doing that 4 years, I was out with that particular guy. Now, God, unfortunately, he's not around anymore. And that's another story that comes later in my story. But basically, I went out with another wedding photographer, and they were drastically different in their style.
Right.
Which again, there's a story to go with that. And then I went out with an architectural photographer, and I went out with a commercial photographer. And he was doing food stuff, he was doing photographic art, he was doing other bits and pieces.
Right.
So it was all that kind of stuff. So it was great because I got a good grounding on a lot of different things very early on, even though it wasn't kind of structured. It was, me picking up the phone and just talking to people, or people saying, expressing the need somewhere else. But for example, one of the things I learned from the other wedding photographer, who was actually quite slow. Right. And again, these are things that you just don't forget, conversations. I'm standing beside, well, he's kind of doing his thing, he's setting up a group, and it's taken a long time. And the best man is standing beside me, and he says to his mate, if this guy keeps going the way he's going, I'm going to throw me shield him. Right. Because it just took too long. So where the other guy was really quick, and he would say to me, you don't want to keep it too long. You need them to be neat. The groups need to be good. They need to be neat. They need to be, attention to detail needs to be there. But if you take a long time to do that, people lose patience. They're not there for a photo shoot. They're there to enjoy themselves. So you have to help that along. And that's what I do.
And if you're just joining us now, you're listening to You and Your Business with me, Alec Drew, on 103.2 Dublin City FM, where my guest today is Dermot Byrne. Yeah, we were just talking about, so really what we're talking about, one of the key aspects of a good photographer is being personable, and organized. So in other words, you know what you need to be doing, you know how to engage with people to just get their attention, and then keep that attention span for a limited time without exhausting them.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what you're doing is you need to listen. The biggest strength I have when I go out on a job, it doesn't matter whether it's a commercial corporate job, a PR type job, whatever it is, you have to listen to people and you have to listen to what's being said. And from that, then how to react, or how to deal with that particular person and the way they're at. In saying that, my philosophy is that I treat everybody, it doesn't matter who they are, with the same level of respect and the same level of attention. Right. But it's how you talk to them and how you get them, you meander them to where they need to be can differ. Yeah. But that's the skills that you learn about dealing with people. It's different people have different triggers and different ways of going about it. But basically my job is that when I meet somebody within 30 seconds, I kind of have to know the best way to get around them and to get them to do what I need them to do in as easy way as possible, and help them to enjoy that process. And that's the key. Yeah, and that is actually key. And of course, that transcends probably all levels of photography that you're doing. So, I mean, whether you're doing commercial or if you're doing a food shoot or anything like that, there's time, like if you take something like food, you do some food, do you, Dermot? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I've done stuff for Fitzpatrick's hotels and other places like that. So yeah,
I mean, one of the things
sure.
with food is it's time consuming to do it.
Yeah,
And so therefore you have to keep everybody happy because they're thinking to themselves, geez, I've other jobs to be doing and I'm caught up here.
yeah. But the thing is, you see, you need to get the chef on your side,
Yeah.
for example. So the chef is creating something. So once the chef creates something, they think it's perfect.
Yeah.
But when you put it down in front of your camera, it may not necessarily be, because you're seeing things that you don't normally see with the naked eye, because maybe you're going in closer, or it's picking up all the little details, and when the light hits it, certain things happen. So what you have to do is, what I tend to do is, at the start of the shoot, I will talk to the chef properly, because sometimes you don't even get to talk to the chef. You're dealing with the manager, or the PR person for the hotel or whatever, or the restaurant. But I need to speak to the chef, because the chef is creating something. Yes. So what I do is I talk to the chef and say, look, sometimes we'll have a look in the camera, because what I'm going to do then is, you give me the plate, we're going to put it down, we're going to look at the angles together, because you know the angle that you have created this at. So we'll have a look and see. I will say what I feel is the best angle, or what I think is the best. And then if you are unsure, let me shoot it, we'll have a look. If you want to change it, we shoot it, have a look. And then we can make a decision based on that. Or we can tweak it, or maybe we need to move something around to suit the picture. So, for example, I did stuff for a place there's actually two restaurants. It's the same owners. It's a Thai restaurant,
right,
and an Indian restaurant. And the food, certainly in the Indian restaurant, came out, they had little flowers on it, and it was like art. It was beautiful. But there was certain angles that I had to shoot it at to make the most of it. But by the end of it, when the chef saw it and the owner saw it, they were blown away by it, because they got shots done in previous, but they'd never seen the attention to detail. It was still quick, because we were even, because the way it worked is, and this is the beauty of this bit, you photograph it, once it's perfect, you can eat
it. Perfect. Make sure it's still hot. Make sure
exactly.
It's still hot.
I wanted to make sure it was shot properly, and they were happy and still hot.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. So it just meant as well that you weren't taking forever to photograph it. So for me, something comes out, I see what I need to do as it's sitting in front of me, and I say, okay, well, this angle is going to be great, and that's from experience. So I know kind of there's maybe two angles of shooting this, even though it's around plate, and you can shoot 36 degrees or 360 degrees, I should say. But there's two really angles are there, and they're the angles, and that's it. The rest of it is not really going to work. But that from experience.
Yeah, and what you're bringing is experience, but more importantly, you're bringing a sort of sense of collaboration, that you're bringing important people on board with you, as opposed to you being the prima donna saying this is how it must happen and dictating.
You can never be, well, for me, I'm never the prima donna. It's never about me. I'm there to help create whatever it is. It's not my thing. I'm part of a cog. I'm a cog in a system, and it doesn't matter what the system is.
And I suppose there's people are thinking to themselves, sure, it'll be okay, sure, we can Photoshop
it. There's probably nothing worse than hearing those words, because, it just doesn't make sense. If you can change something in front of you and get it right in camera, why would you not?
Yeah.
Why would you have to go in and start cutting things out and taking away issues where all you'd have to do is maybe wipe a plate, or you might have to just turn it a little bit?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to me. Why would you waste your time when you can actually do it right in the first instance?
And I suppose this is always the importance of employing professionals to do a job, as opposed to working with amateurs.
Well, that's part of it. Yeah. But I don't want to talk about that. Because that always comes back to bite you. But it is, look,
I mean, we're not trying to shoot down anybody, but you get what you pay for. And
well, to be honest with you, like my definition of a professional, right, is not that you get paid for your job; it's that you get it right every time, or as close to every time as possible. That's what you're paying for. You're not paying for someone's time, whatever. You're paying for their expertise. You're paying for your knowledge that they're going to get it right, and that's the key to it. So, for example, if I do a fashion shoot, I'm going to take a fashion shoot as a great example, because, for example, in a fashion shoot, you have loads of different people involved. Sure. You've got stylists, you've got maybe jewelry people, You have a location that you're, could be paying for, maybe not paying for, but it doesn't matter. You're still taking a location for the day. You're paying for models or not. Again, it could be a collaboration, but it doesn't matter. You get people's time, makeup artists, hair, all that kind of stuff, right? And if I go out and I don't do the job right, or I make a mess of it, and things are out of focus, or whatever it is, right, and I don't do the clothes justice, or I don't do the shoot justice and make it interesting. Everybody's work. It doesn't matter how brilliant the makeup is. If I don't do my job right, the makeup artist may be able to stay in the bed.
Yeah.
There's no point. There's no point. The same with the model. The model could be doing fantastic things, and again, part of my job is to help that model achieve the best that they can do on the day. And if I'm not doing my job right, the model maybe won't feel it and won't come across in as good a way as possible. And again, that model may as well stay in bed because the photographs aren't going to be great.
Yeah.
Then it's just not going to work. So these are the bits where, you know that if you hire me to do it, I'm going to make sure that it's as close to 100% as is humanly possible from everybody, because that's my job.
I think that's important. Yeah. And if you're just joining us now, you're listening to You and Your Business with me, Alec Drew, on 103.2 Dublin City FM, where my guest today is Dermot Byrne. We're just talking about photography. Can I just ask you a couple of questions? We hadn't talked about this before, and you're probably not expecting them, but I'd be interested in your perspective. Things about image rights. Yes. I think photographers have different perspectives on that. Have you got your thoughts on it?
Well, basically, the way it's working at the moment is image rights are the photographers.
Right.
But loads of people don't want to understand that. I think that's probably the best way to put it. Okay. They know because it's out there and it's being talked about, but they don't want to know because they can just go, oh, I didn't know. And then they're taking stuff up. I'll give you an example again. I did a really cool photograph of two harps. There was a mother and a daughter, harps, and they asked me to do a photo shoot for them, etc. And we were in near Lochray, and it was twilight, and we got these really cool photos of the two harps together. And it was kind of like there was a sodium light coming behind, so we got this kind of lovely orange glow, and the sea was blue. And then we shot it at about a 2-3 second exposure. So there was kind of like a little bit of wind, so there was grass. Reeds there, and it was kind of a flow of the reeds, and it looked really, really cool. So American Association of Harpists robbed the picture from her website, and it was only through a friend of hers that she found out. So she went and challenged them, and they ended up taking it down. But there was no sorry about that, because she paid for that. But they just took it and just used that on their website.
Yeah, but I suppose then let me move the conversation just slightly differently in terms of you taking that photograph. Do you retain that image right, or when somebody pays you, they get the rights to that image?
They can pay. For example, if I do a commercial job, normally what I do is when we do the agreement or whatever, including whatever photographs we're including, they will include full image rights.
Right.
But that's included. Now, if they just want to. What that basically means is that they can use it anywhere they want. Say, if they want to, say it's an Irish jewelry manufacturer that I deal with, they want to use the stuff in America, no problem. They go ahead. It's included in the price that I'm charging.
I think it's important that people understand that. And there's another aspect of which you'd be involved in as well. People tend to think that you can use nearly anybody and as your model in a shot. And people often do it, like they'll have employees and things like that. What would be your advice to them?
They want to be good. It's like to get a good model. Okay, this is the best way to describe a model. And I've dealt with quite a few of them. Sometimes people will stand in front of you as to do a model portfolio, and they've got no life in their eyes.
Yeah.
No life. And you're trying to get the most out of them, and it's all about I'm pretty and it's great, or it's the bloke is after working out for 3 or 4 years of his life. He's cut and his body looks amazing and all that, but there's no life in him. He's like it's like Schwarzenegger. Is the best way to put it. You can never call Arnold Schwarzenegger a fantastic dramatic actor. He's great at action, but he's not a dramatic actor. If you want a really good model, you need to have somebody who's a very good actor as well as a certain look. That's the best way to put it. That's the best model you can possibly have. Because if you want them to create a feeling, they have to act it. They have to. And if they're not convincing, the photograph is not going to have that feeling. It's just not going to happen. Because when you start dealing with kind of down, whether it's clothing, jewelry, stuff like that on a model, you're selling a lifestyle. So to make somebody feel that they believe that lifestyle when they're looking at the photograph, that could be on a set, or it could be in the studio, or it could be, you know, it could be anywhere, doesn't matter. The model has to sell it. So part of my job, once I get a good model, part of my job is then to get that bit out of them, you know.
Sure.
So I'm like, then I become like a director. And we're into Steven Spielberg territory. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, you know, this bit, you know, I want you to have feel. Like, it was funny actually. I had somebody in, you know, such a, you know, I want you to have that kind of, you know, you're giving that kind of seductive look. And I kind of looking at the funny time, says, you know, when you're in a bar, right, you're looking across, you see someone you find very attractive, you know, the little smile, little winky smile. They went, oh yeah, done. That was the shot.
Yeah.
You know, so it's sometimes you just kind of jokingly can kind of suggest something to them, but you have to say it in a way that they understand what you mean.
And they can convey
the direction.
They'll convey the thing.
Yeah.
In terms of sort of going in on the corporate world, where they may have staff shots and things like that, and maybe some stage shots around boardroom tables. Again, would you advise people, because there's a presumption that that somebody could suddenly leave the company and say, I don't want my face in that photograph. How do you avoid that?
Yeah, it happened. It has happened. So really, that comes down to, like, I've done some stuff before, but it was important that the person who was in the photograph was the correct person, which is fine, because that was it was like their profile photograph. What they wanted to do was for AIB corporate finance. So they wanted to do things that were a bit more kind of arty and funky and all that kind of stuff. They were shooting over shoulders of people. So it didn't matter who the person sitting, like, with the shoulder and the back of the head was. That was irrelevant. But the person that I was photographing was relevant. But that was like a profile photo. If you're doing it like a kind of a generalized thing, you are better off, if you can, kind of getting somebody in and paying them, simply because, as you said, you know, somebody steps into the picture, or you pay them and get a model release form done for that employee, and then it doesn't matter if they leave the job, then it becomes irrelevant, because you've signed a model release form, so therefore they can continue to use your photograph of whatever you've agreed. So it's not a problem in that respect. But yes, if it's just kind of, sure, Mary will do it, and then Mary gets sacked 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
You know, and you've spent the whole day
in every photograph.
You're gone. So ring Dermot.
The model.
Mary's gone. Mary's gone.
Yeah, the model release form. So I mean, there's something. I mean, we know your career, and you've used networking and everything in PR, and you've worked all across that. And I could talk about that, but I'm more fascinated, I think, from our listeners' perspective, we're just talking about the art of photography and some of the key tips that people should be taking into account. For example, I'm often surprised. I'll see magazines and things with photographs of people, and of course, people love to see themselves in magazines, but there's no captions in it. You know, do you talk to people about putting proper captions in photographs and that?
Yeah. So, for example, like if you're doing PR stuff or stuff that's going into the press, has to be captioned, otherwise delete, because they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Now, what's happening now is what that kind of caption thing has become quite important, because it's stuff that needs to be in the metadata for people to find your pictures if you're putting them online. So that's another side of it. So, you know, with the likes of caption, for people to find your work or whatever, that is becoming increasingly more important. That's where that's going at the moment. But certainly stuff for magazines and kind of that end of things, they have to know what this photograph is, unless they've hired you to do it. And then you see, like, for example, I work for, say, certain magazines, like Self Build magazine, for example. Sure. And what I do is when I shoot a particular house, I rename all the files for that particular house.
Yes.
So they know which photo shoot it is. So then they know which one to put it into. And then I might go down the route and say, you know, the kind of conservatory. And most of it's fairly obvious. But, you know, there could be one or two little bits that are a little bit kind of strange. It could be a workshop or something like that, a photograph. And I put the name of the person in the photograph as well. So, for example, sometimes they like to get a photograph of, say, the family sitting around in the kitchen or whatever. So it'll be, you know, say the Byrne family.
Yeah,
that'd be the extent of it. Like, you know, you don't have to put, you know, Alec on the left and Dermot on the right or whatever. That doesn't really matter.
Yeah, general.
So it is becoming more important.
Yeah. There's a perception out there in business too that if that photograph's out on the internet, I can use it. I just want you to put people off that whole notion.
Well, you see, that's the whole thing going back to image rights. So, you've no right to use anything. Like if you're putting things out and you mark the public domain, you kind of are giving, excuse out. But if there's something that's copyrighted or there's nothing on it, unless it's specifically marked that it's free use,
you
can't use it without the photographer's permission. It's very simple. So if you do, certainly if it's for a corporate gig or something like that, you could be heavily sued. And the chances are 99% will go with the photographer. And that has been proven. Now, probably, normally what happens is photographers will approach the company and then say, listen, you're using this photograph and you shouldn't be using this photograph. And what they'll do then is they'll negotiate something.
Sure.
So it won't go to court or whatever. But if it does go to court, it could be hammered as a company, Because so all it takes sometimes is you just reach out to the photographer. Because again, normally what would happen is within the metadata, there's the photographer's website or whatever. So there's a way of finding where this photograph has come from 99.9% of the time.
Yeah, so these
really is no excuse these days.
They're tagged.
Yeah,
and I think it's important for people to do. Believe it or not, we've just over a minute left. So
really, okay.
That's how quickly that went. So firstly, tell people where they can contact you and find out more about you.
Yeah, well, for the likes of weddings and portraits, etc., I've got a website which is called dermotborn.ie, so dead simple. If you remember my name, you remember the website. Sure. But also, I've also an agency website as well, where I've got several photographers and we all kind of help each other out. But I've got my own agency, which is called purevision.ie. That's the website there for the commercial and corporate stuff, PR stuff. So again, you can go on and have a look and you can find out about the awards I've won and all that kind of stuff. Through the IPPA, it's the IPPVA now. Videographers as well have been brought into the equation, and look at Fashion Photographer of the Year, 2 years of Best Press and PR Photographer of the Year as well. I'm currently a judge for the IPPVA. It's easy for me to say, but it's that type of thing, and this is why, like, I have a passion for it now. I want to try and help people become better photographers because it was done to me. I have photographers approaching me when I was getting going and starting out and help me.
Certainly your passion comes through, and it's a great way to finish the show. Listen, thanks very much, Dermot Byrne, for being on the show today. Thanks also to Sam and Sam. The podcast of today's show will be available on dublincityfm.ie from tomorrow. Thank you for your company, and please remember to join me, Alec Drew, again next week at the same time, right here on 103.2 Dublin City FM, for another edition of You and Your Business.